I have told this story only twice in my life. Once to a lawyer who advised me never to speak about it again, and once to myself, whispering into the dark at 3:17 a.m. when the sound of moving water outside my window suddenly reminded me of steel groaning under pressure. If you're listening to this now, understand something first. I am not trying to convince you of anything. I don't need you to believe me. I only need you to imagine what it feels like to realize, far too late, that there is nowhere left to run. Because that was the first thing the ocean taught me that night. There is no outside when you're surrounded by water. The call came on a Tuesday evening in late October, the kind of night when the sky looks clean but wrong, like it's been wiped too hard. I was standing in my kitchen in Astoria, Oregon, watching fog slide in from the river, when my phone vibrated on the counter. The number was blocked. I didn't answer at first. I rarely do. But it rang again, longer this time, vibrating against the laminate like it was impatient. When I picked up, the voice on the other end said my name carefully, as if testing whether it still belonged to me. Calder Holloway? Yes, I said. Who's this? There was a pause. I heard papers shifting, the faint hum of an office building after hours. This is Mireya Quince, operations coordinator for a private maritime heritage project. We were given your name by the Port Authority. You specialize in structural maintenance for decommissioned vessels. I almost laughed. I hadn't done ship work in 3 years. I don't take night contracts, I said. And I don't do offshore. This one isn't offshore, she replied. Not anymore. That should have been my first warning. She explained that the vessel had been retired decades ago. It sat permanently moored off the California coast, just beyond a breakwater, near a forgotten industrial stretch of shoreline. Once a working giant, now a floating exhibit, mostly closed to the public, kept alive by grants and nostalgia. They needed overnight maintenance staff. Just one position had opened up. Temporary. Quiet. Well paid. When I asked why the last technician left so suddenly, she hesitated. He resigned, she said. Effective immediately. People don't resign from jobs like that without a reason. But I didn't ask. I needed the money. The vessel was called the Ardent Veil. That name still feels wrong in my mouth. I arrived 3 nights later, driving south along Highway 1 as the sun drowned itself in the Pacific. The air smelled like salt and old metal long before I saw the ship. She was enormous, not beautiful, just massive, industrial, built for endurance rather than grace. Layers of steel rose out of the water like stacked shadows, decks stretching farther than my eyes could follow. Floodlights along the pier illuminated her hull in sickly yellow patches, revealing streaks of rust like dried blood. The ocean around her was unnaturally calm. No chop, no rhythm, just black water holding its breath. A single security officer checked my ID and waved me through the gate. No smile, no small talk. "Night crew's already aboard," he said. "Don't wander." I asked what he meant by that. He pretended not to hear me. I boarded at 9:43 p.m. The gangway clanged under my boots, each step echoing into the ship's body. Inside, the air was stale, cold, in a way that had nothing to do with temperature. It smelled like oil, old paint, and something else. Something faintly sweet, like damp paper left too long in the dark. I followed the signs to maintenance control, where a man waited beside a humming panel of monitors. He stood when he saw me. Tall, broad-shouldered, early 40s maybe. His hair was iron gray at the temples, his face lined in a way that suggested he didn't sleep much. "Calder," he said, extending a hand. "Name's Rowan Pike." His grip was firm, grounding. I didn't realize how tense I was until I felt it. "First night?" he asked. "Is it that obvious?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I'll show you the basics," Rowan said. "Then we stick to our zone. That's important." "What's our zone?" I asked. Rowan didn't answer right away. He handed me a key card instead. "You'll learn." The Ardent Vale had been stripped down for public tours. Ballrooms sealed off, passenger decks closed, stairwells rerouted. But beneath that polished surface lay a maze of corridors that still remembered their original purpose. We worked in the lower sections: engine access halls, auxiliary rooms, pressure corridors with walls so thick they swallowed sound. "Rule 1, Rowan said as we walked. "If you hear something that doesn't make sense, you don't investigate." "Rule 2? "If you feel lost, you stop moving." I waited for him to laugh. He didn't. "There are parts of this ship that don't line up the way they should," he continued. "You try to logic your way through them, you'll make it worse." I chalked it up to superstition. Every old structure collects its share. Still, I noticed how Rowan avoided certain junctions, how his flashlight beam never lingered on specific doorways. One of them caught my attention. A heavy steel door set into the bulkhead, painted the same dull gray as everything else, but marked with a faded, red stenciled number. 47. The air around it felt tight, pressurized. I slowed, squinting. "What's behind that one?" Rowan's light snapped away from the door. "Nothing you need," he said. Around midnight, Rowan left to check a reported power fluctuation on an upper deck. "Stay here," he said. "I'll be back in 15. The control room lights buzzed softly. Pipes ticked as they cooled. The ship felt alive in the way sleeping animals do. Still, but listening. That's when the sensation started. That feeling you get when someone is standing just behind you. I turned. No one there, but the room felt occupied, as if the space itself had shifted to make room for something else. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Not echoing the way Rowan's had. These sounded closer. Too close. "Rowan?" I called. The footsteps stopped. I told myself it was thermal expansion, old metal settling. I told myself a lot of things. Then my name drifted out of the corridor, not shouted, spoken softly. "Calder." My throat went dry. "That's not funny," I said, hating how thin my voice sounded. Silence. I should have stayed where I was. Instead, I stepped into the hallway. The corridor lights flickered as I moved, dimming behind me, brightening ahead, guiding me in a way that felt intentional. I passed junctions I didn't recognize, stairwells I didn't remember descending. When I tried to turn back, the corridor behind me no longer matched the one I'd walked through. Panic crept in then, slow and cold. "Okay," I muttered. "Okay." That's when I saw the door. Steel. Gray. Red stencil. 47. It was open. Just a crack. Cold air spilled out, carrying the sound of something. Breathing. Not mechanical. Wet. I don't know why I approached. Curiosity, maybe. Or that awful human need to confirm our worst fears. As I reached for the door, a hand clamped down on my shoulder. I screamed. Rowan yanked me back, slamming the door shut with a force that rattled the walls. "Did you hear me say don't wander?" he snapped. Someone called my name," I said. You thought wrong," he cut in. His face was pale now, sweaty. "Listen to me," Rowan said quietly. "This ship doesn't like being remembered, and it hates being noticed." I laughed, shaky and hollow. You're telling me this place is haunted? Rowan didn't laugh back. No, he said. I'm telling you it's awake. He walked me back to the control room without another word. Neither of us mentioned door 47 again. But as I stood there, trying to slow my breathing, I noticed something that made my blood turn to ice. On the monitor showing the lower corridor layout, the camera feed for section 47 was active, and something was standing just outside the door. Waiting, Rowan locked the control room door behind us. The click echoed too loudly, like the ship itself had leaned closer to listen. "Sit," he said, pointing to a metal chair bolted to the floor. I didn't argue. My legs felt hollow, like they'd been scooped out and replaced with cold water. The monitor showing section 47 flickered once, then stabilized. Whatever had been standing there was gone. I let out a breath I didn't remember holding. "You saw it," Rowan said. It wasn't a question. "Yeah," I replied. "I saw something." But the camera didn't show details, just a shape. "That's how it starts," he muttered. Rowan pulled a folded packet of cigarettes from his jacket, paused, then shoved them back as if remembering where he was. "No smoking below deck," he said to no one. "Not anymore." I watched his hands shake as he poured coffee from a thermos. The smell was burnt and bitter, but it anchored me to something normal. "Tell me what's going on," I said. "Please." Rowan leaned back against the console, eyes never leaving the monitors. "You ever worked on a place long enough that it starts to feel like it knows you?" he asked. "I've worked oil rigs," I said. "Remote stations. Isolation messes with people." "This isn't isolation," Rowan said. "This is accumulation." He took a slow breath. "The Ardent Veil didn't just move cargo," he continued. "She moved people during disasters, evacuations, emergencies, wartime transport under civilian flags." I frowned. "They told me it was a heritage vessel." "It is," Rowan replied. "Heritage includes the parts people don't like to remember." He told me about the first incident. Not mine. Not even his. Years ago, during the initial restoration phase, a technician named Silas Crowell had been assigned to map the lower pressure corridors. Quiet guy. Former Navy. Knew ships better than most people know their own houses. One night, Silas didn't report back. They found his tool belt near section 47. No body, no blood, no explanation. Security footage showed him walking into the corridor and never coming out. The camera never glitched. It just stopped recording him. "Like the ship edited him out," Rowan said softly. I swallowed. "They reported this, right?" "Police?" "Coast Guard investigated," Rowan said. "Came up empty. Ruled it a voluntary disappearance." "That makes no sense." Rowan's eyes met mine. "Nothing here makes sense once it starts paying attention to you." At 2:11 a.m., the lights dimmed across the lower deck. Not a blackout, more like a sigh. The hum of the ship deepened, vibrating through the floor into my bones. It felt like standing on the chest of something enormous while it breathed. Rowan cursed under his breath and checked his radio. "Control to upper deck," he said. "You seeing this?" Only static answered. That's when the speakers crackled. A woman's voice drifted through the corridor intercom, tinny, distorted, but unmistakably human. "Calder Holloway, please report to inspection access." My stomach dropped. "That's not funny," I said, turning toward the speaker. "Rowan?" He was already shaking his head. "No one else knows your name yet," he said. "Not officially." The voice repeated itself, calm, polite, insistent. Rowan grabbed my arm. "Do not respond," he whispered. "It wants acknowledgement." The speakers went silent. For a moment, I thought that was the end of it. Then the knocking started. 3 slow knocks, metal on metal, coming from inside the walls. We followed the sound despite ourselves. Rowan moved first, flashlight cutting through the dark, his jaw set in grim resignation. Each knock echoed through the pipes, traveling ahead of us like a breadcrumb trail made of dread. We reached a junction where 3 corridors split. The knocking stopped. Silence pressed in from all sides. Then a new sound emerged, soft, rhythmic, almost gentle. Footsteps, barefoot, coming from the left corridor. "Rowan," I whispered. "Someone's there." "I know," he said. The footsteps stopped just beyond the light's reach. A shadow stretched along the floor, thin and distorted, like it didn't quite belong to the body casting it. "Help me," a voice said. Male. Young, cracked with fear. "I can't find the way back." My chest tightened. The instinct to help surged forward, powerful and automatic. Rowan stepped in front of me. "No," he said firmly. "That's not a person." The voice sobbed. "I'm cold," it said. "They locked the doors. I didn't do anything wrong." The shadow began to stretch closer. Rowan raised his flashlight and shouted, "Go back!" The light flickered. The shadow snapped backward, retreating into the corridor like it had been yanked by an invisible chain. The air warmed slightly, like the ship had relaxed. I stared at the empty hallway. "That sounded real," I said. "That sounded like someone who needed help." Rowan's face was hollow. "That's how it learns," he said. "By copying." Back in the control room, Rowan finally told me the truth. The ardent veil didn't just hold memories, it replayed them. Not like a tape, more like a wound reopening. "People didn't always die cleanly here," he said. "Some were trapped, some were crushed, some were forgotten in sealed sections during emergency lockdowns." My mind flashed back to the shape on the camera, waiting. "Section 47, I said. "What happened there?" Rowan hesitated. "An emergency bulkhead malfunction," he said. "Years before restoration. 2 crew members caught between pressure doors." "Did they die?" Rowan didn't answer. The ship shuddered. Not violently, just enough to remind us it was still there, still listening. Around 3:40 a.m., exhaustion crept in like a fog. Fear burns energy fast, and my body was starting to fail. Rowan left again to restore power to a non-essential system. "I'll be back," he said. "Don't move." I nodded. This time I meant it. Minutes passed. Too many. The radio on the console crackled once. Then Rowan's voice came through, breathless. "Calder," he said. "I need you to listen carefully." "What's wrong?" I asked. "I found the resignation letter," he said. "The one from the guy before you." My heart sank. "He didn't quit," Rowan continued. "He begged to be reassigned. Said the ship was using his memories." The radio hissed. "Rowan?" I said. "Where are you?" Another pause. Then, "I don't remember my name," the voice said. Cold flooded my veins. "That's not funny," I whispered. The voice on the radio sighed. "You shouldn't have learned its corridors," it said. "It notices patterns." The signal cut out. The lights went red. Emergency illumination bathed the control room in blood-colored shadows. And from somewhere deep within the ship, a door began to open. Slowly. I followed the sound. I don't know why. Maybe because standing still felt worse. The emergency lights pulsed as I descended into a lower section I didn't recognize. The walls here were older, scarred by repairs layered over repairs. I smelled heat, and something burned. The corridor opened into a wide chamber. Furnace access. Old industrial equipment loomed around me like dead giants. At the center of the room, a furnace glowed faintly orange. and someone was standing in front of it, their back to me, shoveling something inside. "Hey," I said, "this section's closed." The figure didn't respond. The shovel scraped metal, again and again. I stepped closer. "That system isn't operational," I said. "You need to stop." The figure turned. I wish it hadn't. Its face was wrong. Not damaged, not injured, incomplete. Like features had been pressed into soft wax and left to melt. Eyes too shallow, mouth sagging, skin blistered in places where heat had kissed it too long. It smiled. "You remembered me," it said. I stumbled backward. The furnace roared louder. The figure took a step toward me and slipped, falling into the open mouth of the furnace. There was no scream, just the sound of something heavy hitting fire. I ran. I burst onto the upper deck moments later, gasping, heart slamming against my ribs. The ocean stretched out around the ship, endless and black, fog curling across the water like breath. No lights, no movement, just the ardent veil in me. I thought I was alone. Then I saw her, a woman sitting by the empty pool, bare feet dangling over the edge, wearing a faded bathing suit that belonged to another decade. She looked up and smiled. "Are you maintenance?" she asked. I didn't answer. "You need to fix the wiring," she continued, pointing toward the water. "I won't swim unless it's safe." Behind me, footsteps approached. Voices called my name. The woman leaned closer. "Don't listen to them," she whispered. "They'll tell you I'm not real." I looked down at the pool. The water was still. Too still. And I saw footprints forming behind her, wet, child-sized, leading into the deep end. My knees buckled. I squeezed my eyes shut. When I opened them again, the pool was empty. Only wet footprints remained, leading nowhere. That's when Rowan found me, alive, shaking, but alive. "We need to leave," I said. "Now." Rowan looked out at the ocean. "At dawn," he said. "It sleeps then." I didn't ask what would happen if it didn't. I used to believe fear was loud, that it announced itself with screaming alarms, crashing sounds, things breaking in the dark. I believed fear was obvious, something you could point to and say, "There, that's it. That's what's wrong." I don't believe that anymore. Real fear is quiet. It seeps in slowly, like moisture through old concrete. You don't notice it at first. You just start feeling off. Your thoughts slow down. Time stretches. Memories blur at the edges. And then one day, without warning, you realize the place you're standing in knows you better than you know yourself. By the third night, the offshore platform had stopped feeling like a structure and started feeling like a mind. And it was awake. I didn't sleep. I don't mean I slept badly. I mean I didn't sleep at all. I lay on the narrow bunk in my quarters, staring at the underside of the metal frame above me, listening to the platform breathe. That's the only word that fits. It breathed. A slow, uneven rhythm of pressure changes, distant groans, vibrations traveling through steel bones. Not mechanical noise, not exactly. More like lungs. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the corridor again. The one I'd found behind the sealed bulkhead, the one that shouldn't exist. The walls there weren't rusted. They weren't painted. They were raw metal, polished smooth by something that had passed through too many times to count. And the smell. God, the smell. Like old water and heat and something organic left too long in the dark. I kept telling myself it was stress, isolation, sleep deprivation. That's what people say when they don't want to admit something else is happening. But the platform had changed, and I wasn't the only one who felt it. At 5:40, the intercom crackled. "Morning status check," came Supervisor Hale's voice, flat, tired. "All crew report in." I swung my legs over the side of the bunk, my joints stiff like I'd aged 10 years overnight. When my boots hit the floor, I felt a faint vibration run through the soles, like the platform responding to my weight. That was new. I keyed the intercom. "This is Calder. Awake." There was a pause before Hale responded. Too long. "Copy," he said. "Meet in the control hub in 20. I stepped into the corridor and froze. The lights were dimmer than they'd been the night before. Not off, never off, but muted, like someone had turned them down just enough to make you question your eyesight. The shadows were thicker. They clung to corners, pooled beneath door frames. And the floor felt warmer. Metal doesn't hold heat like that, not this deep in the ocean air. As I walked, I noticed something else. The platform was quieter. No background hum of auxiliary pumps. No steady mechanical chorus. Just isolated sounds. Clicks, distant thuds. A soft metallic drag somewhere far below. It felt like being inside a building after everyone else has left. The control hub was missing 2 people. Hale stood at the main console, his hands gripping the edge like he needed it to stay upright. His eyes were bloodshot. Across from him, Rhea Vance sat hunched over, arms folded tight around herself, staring at nothing. "Where's the rest?" I asked. Hale didn't answer immediately. He cleared his throat once, then again. "Cormac didn't report in," he said. "Neither did Lenro." My stomach tightened. "They were on maintenance rotation." "I know." "Did you check their quarters?" "Yes." "And?" Hale's jaw clenched. "Their rooms were empty." Rhea finally spoke. Her voice was hoarse, like she'd been screaming earlier. "Not just empty. Clean." I looked at her. "What do you mean, clean?" "No personal effects. No clothes. No boots. No mess. It's like they were never assigned here." "That's impossible," I said, though the word felt weak. Hale exhaled slowly. I pulled the logs, and there's no record of them boarding the platform. Silence fell over the room like a heavy cloth. I laughed. It slipped out before I could stop it. A sharp, brittle sound. "That's not funny." "I'm not joking," Hale said. "They've been here for months." "According to the system," Hale said quietly, "they don't exist." We split up. I don't remember deciding to. It just happened. Like the platform wanted us separated. I took the lower decks, following a maintenance route I'd walked dozens of times before. Only now, the signage was wrong. Arrows pointed in directions that led nowhere. Labels were scratched out, replaced with markings that looked like corrosion until you stared too long and realized they followed patterns. I stopped at Junction D14. The bulkhead door there was open. It had been welded shut. The welds were gone. Not broken, not cut. Gone. Like they'd never been there. Beyond the door was the corridor again. Only it wasn't the same. The ceiling was lower, the walls closer together, the air thicker, heavier, and the floor sloped downward. I stood there for a long time, telling myself not to go in. Then I heard my name, not shouted, not whispered, spoken normally, calmly. "Calder." It came from deep inside the corridor. I stepped forward before I realized what I was doing. The corridor stretched far beyond the platform's known dimensions. I knew the schematics by heart. This shouldn't have been possible. But there it was. Metal folding inward. Space bending just enough to feel wrong without being obvious. As I walked, the temperature rose. Sweat ran down my back. The lights overhead flickered, not failing, just blinking, like eyelids. Then I saw the footprints, bare feet, wet. They led away from me. I followed them. The corridor opened into a chamber. Not a room, a cavity. The walls curved inward, ribbed with structural supports that looked less like beams and more like bones. Pipes ran along the surface, pulsing slowly, carrying something darker than oil. In the center of the chamber stood a console I'd never seen before. It wasn't connected to anything, and it was turned on. The screen flickered to life as I approached. Text scrolled across it. Not data. Names. Cormac Lenro, Rhea Vance Supervisor, Hale Elias Calder. My name sat at the bottom of the list. Blinking, I staggered back. The chamber reacted. The low hum intensified, vibrating through my chest. The pipes pulsed faster. The screen changed. A new line appeared beneath my name. Status. In progress. No, I said. No, no, no. Images flashed across the screen. Not recordings. Memories. Cormac laughing in the mess hall. Lenro asleep in his bunk. Rhea staring out at the ocean through reinforced glass. Hale alone in the control hub, rubbing his temples like he could push something out of his skull. Then my own face appeared. Eyes hollow, skin pale. Older. Something moved behind me. I didn't turn around. I didn't have to. I could feel it. Not a presence, an awareness. The platform wasn't haunted. It was hungry. I ran. The corridor shifted as I moved, lengthening, narrowing, twisting just enough to keep me disoriented. Doors appeared where there hadn't been doors before. Ladders led to decks that didn't match their numbers. I burst into the control hub, gasping. Hale was gone. Rhea stood alone, staring at the main screen. She turned when she heard me. Her eyes were wrong. Not glowing, not black. Empty. I remember now, she said softly. Remember what? I asked. Her mouth twitched. Why this place was built. The screens behind her lit up. Not schematics. Records. Incident reports. Missing crew. Structural anomalies. Platforms decommissioned without explanation. Always the same coordinates. Always the same note at the end. Structure retained for observation. It's not a rig, Rhea said. It's a filter. For what? For us. The lights dimmed further, and somewhere deep below, something shifted. Slowly, deliberately, like a massive body turning in its sleep. I don't know how long I stood there. Time had lost meaning. Minutes stretched. Seconds collapsed. My thoughts felt thick, like moving through syrup. Rhea stepped back toward the central console. Don't, I said. She smiled, not happily, relieved. It already knows me, she said. It always did. The floor beneath her opened, not violently, gently, like an invitation. She didn't scream when she fell. The opening sealed behind her, leaving no trace she'd ever been there. The platform sighed, satisfied, and then the intercom crackled. Calder, Hale's voice said, from everywhere. Report to the lower decks. I didn't answer. I'm writing this now from my quarters, hands shaking, the walls humming softly around me. The list on that screen, my name is still there. I can feel it counting something down inside me. I know what happens next. The platform doesn't kill you. It keeps you, learns you, and when it's done, it forgets you ever existed. I didn't go to the lower decks. I knew better. The intercom crackled again after the first call, Hale's voice threading through every speaker on the platform at once. Too clear, too close, like it was being spoken directly into my skull. I muted the unit in my quarters, but the sound didn't stop. It just changed. It came through the walls, through the floor, through the bed frame beneath me. Calder, it said again. You're behind schedule. I pressed my palms against my ears. The vibration traveled straight through bone. The platform wasn't speaking to me anymore. It was speaking as me. I stood up slowly, my legs trembling, and looked around the quarters. Everything felt smaller. The walls leaned in by inches I could swear hadn't been gone before. My breath fogged the air even though the room was warm. That's when I noticed the clock. It wasn't moving, not broken, not stopped. Just waiting. I don't know why I checked the logs again. Hope, maybe. The stupid, stubborn human belief that if you look hard enough, you'll find proof you're not crazy. That there's still a record somewhere that says you exist. I pulled up the personnel database. Supervisor Hale. Status, incomplete. Rhea. Vance. Status, incomplete. Cormac. Lenro. Status, archived. Not deceased. Not missing. Filed away. I scrolled. My own name blinked at the bottom of the screen. Elias Calder. Status, active below it. A progress bar. Nearly full. The platform shuddered. Not violently. Not alarmingly. Like a satisfied breath. Something deep below shifted again. Slow and massive. Metal complaining softly, as if being rearranged from the inside. I felt it through my feet. Through my spine. Through my teeth. The platform wasn't malfunctioning. It was finishing something. I grabbed my jacket, my recorder, and the emergency flare gun. Not because I thought it would help, but because instinct demands tools, even when reason knows they're useless. As I stepped into the corridor, the lights brightened. Not for visibility, for ceremony. The platform wanted me to see. The route to the lower decks had changed. I know because I'd walked it hundreds of times. Muscle memory is a powerful thing. But my feet kept hesitating. My body confused by intersections that shouldn't exist. Ladders that descended too far. Doors that opened into spaces wider on the inside than the outside could possibly allow. At one junction, I passed a wall where the paint had peeled away. Beneath it were names, scratched deep into the steel, hundreds of them. Different styles, different depths. Some careful, some frantic. I recognized a few from the database, people who, according to the system, had never existed. I reached the end of the corridor and found myself back at the control hub. I hadn't turned around. The platform had folded space for me. Hale stood there, or something that looked like him. His posture was wrong, too stiff. Like he was being held upright by invisible strings. His eyes tracked me with a delay, focusing a half-second too late. "You didn't follow instructions," he said. His voice echoed strangely, layered with another tone beneath it. Lower, slower. "You're not Hale," I said. He smiled. The expression stretched across his face like it was being tested for fit. "I'm what remains," he replied. "What's left when the platform finishes learning." "Learning what?" "How to hold you." The screens behind him flickered to life. Not data, blueprints, but not of the platform. Of me. My movement patterns, sleep cycles, stress responses, neural activity mapped and labeled. "You're not the first," Hale said. "Just the most recent." I backed toward the door. It sealed. Of course it did. I don't remember deciding to fight. I think some small, stubborn part of me refused to accept that this was how I ended. Not dying, not escaping, just being kept. I fired the flare gun. The bright red arc cut through the dim air and struck the console behind Hale, bursting into violent light and heat. The platform screamed. I don't mean alarms. I mean a sound so deep and vast, it rattled the air itself. A metallic groan layered with pressure and resonance, like a continent shifting underwater. Hale, or the thing wearing him, staggered. The screens shattered. The lights went out. For the first time since I arrived, the platform went dark. Darkness on the ocean is different. It's not empty. It's full. I felt the structure convulse around me, bulkheads slamming open and shut, systems rebooting chaotically. Somewhere, far below, water rushed where it shouldn't have. Emergency lights flickered on, bathing everything in red. I ran. Not toward escape, away from the center, away from whatever heart this thing had. The platform fought me. Floors tilted, ladders retracted, doors closed inches from my face. But something had changed. It was hurt. And hurt things make mistakes. I reached the external maintenance bay just as the storm hit. I hadn't seen it coming. The platform hadn't warned anyone. Waves rose like black walls, slamming into steel with bone-rattling force. Wind howled through open corridors, carrying salt and rain and something else. Something ancient. The emergency lifeboat hung in its cradle. One seat. I laughed. Of course. The platform shook again, harder this time. The sea clawed at its legs, relentless. I scrambled into the lifeboat, my hand slipping on wet metal, and slammed the release. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the clamps disengaged. The lifeboat dropped. The impact knocked the breath from my lungs. Water sprayed over the sides as the boat bobbed violently, the platform looming above me like a dying god. Lights flickered across its surface, systems failing one by one. And then I saw it. The lower structure, parts of the platform I'd never seen exposed, shifted, opening like ribs. Inside, something vast and dark moved. Not flesh, not machine, something in between. The platform wasn't built around it. It was built for it. The sea swallowed the structure inch by inch, metal screaming as it went. And as it sank, I felt something tug at me. Not physically, but mentally. Like a hand reaching for a thread that had been pulled too far. I screamed as the lifeboat surged away on the waves. They found me 3 days later. A Coast Guard cutter spotted the lifeboat drifting far off course. I was dehydrated, half delirious, muttering names I couldn't remember. They asked me about the platform. I told them everything. They listened politely. Then they showed me the reports. No offshore structure had ever existed at those coordinates. No crew assignments. No missing personnel. The platform had been scheduled for construction. Construction that was canceled before it ever began. I was the only name on the paperwork. I thought that was the end. I was wrong. I'm home now. On land. In a place with walls that don't breathe and floors that don't listen. But sometimes, late at night, I hear it. A low hum beneath the silence. A familiar rhythm. And when I close my eyes, I see a list. Names scrolling endlessly in the dark. Waiting for the next one to appear.